neighborhood is my neighbors, which I have found very pleasant and very interesting people. One of them is the one that I have as a guest today, in which I'm going to tell you how I met him. I normally go around the neighborhood riding my trike and doing my shows, like you have seen them many times in YouTube. And one day I met him. He says, hello, everyone. Every once in a while I get to see him around. And I told him that I was doing a show about water quality. And he says, you know what? I work on water. I says, you work on water? Well, then you are the person, correct person to tell me a few things about that. His name is Maxwell Gottesman. Did I pronounce your name well?
Correct. Perfect.
Maxwell Gottesman. And following a very American tradition, I'm going to call him Max.
That works for me.
He can call me Jack, or he can call me Joe, or he can call me Joseph.
Just don't call you late for dinner.
All right. You see, he has a great sense of humor. He's a very nice person. And he happens to be the chief operator of the Water Utilities Department here in Palm Beach County. So his responsibility is no less than keeping the quality of the water that I get in my house and in every other house around here at good standards for safety and for, for safety, essentially.
We try to keep the water in compliance with the regulations.
Excellent.
In other words.
So I have a few questions, because all I see is when I open the pipe, I see the water coming in. I see that it's normally as clearly as any bottled water, and I'm glad that he's responsible and behind some of the operations needed to accomplish this marvel of sanitary engineering would be called, right?
I don't know. We just call it water treatment plant operators. We're called operators because we operate the plant.
Ever since the Romans started doing aqueducts and bringing water from rivers and lakes into the cities first, and then eventually into the households, this has been one of the most significant aspects of healthcare. Because if you don't have healthy water, you have no health. Every pandemic, every epidemic, every disease is usually transmitted through water. Yeah. So Max here is going to tell us, Max, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Jose.
You are my first guest in this area of the country, and also my first guest to my show, which I plan that you can contribute in the future. Max, where do we get the water from?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question.
Here.
Depending on what municipality or what area you live in, the water can come from underground wells. You know what a well is, which is fed by the aquifer. Mm-hmm. The aquifer is a body of water that exists underneath our ground. Mm-hmm. It percolates up into the wells, and then we pump that water out from the wells, and we make it potable. Potable meaning drinkable and safe. Mm-hmm. Now, there's other areas that get their water from surface water. Okay, we use groundwater in this area. But if you go a little bit further north, most of that water comes from Lake Okeechobee, which is a surface water. Mm-hmm. And the treatment is a little bit different, because don't forget, if you have surface water, it's more prone to algae and different kinds of complications than you have with groundwater. Groundwater has its own set of problems as opposed to surface water. What people don't understand is that every drop of water that's on the earth right now is the same water that's been here since the creation. Okay? So dinosaurs used to poop in this water.
Excellent.
All right. So what's happening now
in ways, the old recycling, environmental recycling, water goes into the seas, evaporates, it rains. So
exactly. That's called the hydrologic cycle, okay, where the water percolates up from the ground, it evaporates, it becomes rain. And rain, in its when it first comes out of the cloud, when it's in the cloud, is the purest form of water. So you would think to yourself, well, why can't I drink rainwater? Well, the reason is because by the time the rain reaches the ground, it's already gone through the air. The air is full of pollutants and particulates. And so by the time the rain reaches the ground, it's not drinkable. It can have anything in it. You know, you've heard of acid rain, right?
Correct.
Acid rain is when you have these pollutants. So that's why when the rain hits the ground and goes into the aquifer and comes up into our wells, we can't just drink it. We have to treat it. And a lot of people don't realize that the water, what we're doing actually is we're taking what Mother Nature does, and we're just speeding up the cycle. So Mother Nature purifies the water by percolating it up through the ground, okay? But because of the pollutants and everything, we have to speed up the cycle. We have to purify it before it becomes evaporated, before it becomes rain. Okay, I'm trying to make sense here.
No, it makes perfect sense.
And to do that, we have to add various chemicals. Now, people don't like to hear that. They don't like to hear that we're putting chemicals in the water, okay? But you have to realize, first off, we have to disinfect the water, right? We use chlorine, or actually, here we use chloramines, which is chlorine mixed with ammonia, okay? And that forms a type of disinfection that lasts. In other words, it's not volatile. A volatile form of disinfection would be just plain chlorine. So if you put a glass of water out that has chlorine in it and let it sit, the chlorine comes out of the water. So if we use that, by the time the water gets to the end of the system,
just evaporate.
It's gone. There's no more disinfection.
You can see it in the swimming pools,
right?
That you see kind of the chlorine.
Sometimes you can actually see the gas. Yeah,
you can see the gas.
But chloramines don't do that. Chloramines stay in solution. They're not volatile. So we use chloramines to disinfect. We also add. Now you're not going to like to hear this.
That's all right. That's all right. I'm buckle up.
Okay.
Go on.
Okay. Now our system is mostly reverse osmosis, and for reverse osmosis, we have to use these membranes. Now membranes are very sensitive to pH. pH is what would I call that? It's a measurement of how acidic or how alkaline a water is. Okay. So we want to make sure that the pH is correct before it hits our membranes, because those membranes are worth a lot of money. So we add sulfuric acid. Yes, we are adding sulfuric acid to your water.
That's to make it more acid.
Well,
it's too alkaline.
Right. We want to lower the pH before it goes into our reverse osmosis system, because when it comes out of the wells, the pH is usually around, it's a little above a 7. Okay, 7 is neutral. We want to bring it down to about a 6.2. in order to preserve our membrane. So we add a little bit of acid. Now, when I say a little bit, we're talking parts per million. We're not talking huge amounts of acid that are going into this water. And by the time the water gets to the end of the system, that acid is pretty much dissipated. It's gone. Okay?
But let's get into the details, because, like I said, I've almost never seen a person
There's so much
more
to know.
qualified to. What are these membranes made from?
Okay, that's a good question. I couldn't really tell you. I've never really thought about how they're manufactured.
Is there plastic?
It's kind of a celluloid.
I see.
It's like a celluloid, and I hate to even say that because I'm not really sure. They're not really.
They separate solutes, solvent, the water from the other particles. That's the filtration.
Right. Well, but at the same time, it's not. Let me explain to you what reverse osmosis is.
Okay. Perfect.
So you know what the osmosis is?
Yes.
Osmosis is like when we eat something, the osmotic cycle takes place in our stomach, right? All the nutrients come out of the water and we absorb that, and then we urinate and we get rid of the wastewater, okay?
Correct.
That's osmosis, okay? We reverse that cycle using high pressure, because water always wants to go from a very heavily saturated solution to an unsaturated solution. We reverse it by adding pressure, and we push this water through the membrane, and all the bad stuff ends up as waste, and all the good stuff goes into the system, and then there's more treatment that comes after that. But that's what reverse osmosis is. We're actually reversing nature's, water wants to find the easiest route. The easiest route is to go to an unsaturated solution. Correct. We reverse that. So that saturated solution, which we call brine, goes into waste. It's wasted out, and we inject that into deep wells. Those deep wells are below the aquifer, and that water will eventually percolate back up into our wells, and we'll use it again. So it's a cycle. Okay?
Interesting. I never thought of that complicated process.
Right.
Because typically you have seen small towns where you just drill a hole and draw water.
Right. And you can do that. You can have a little, we used to use a lot of plants still use gravity filters, which is just charcoal and different anthracite and different layers of media, we call it. And then a gravity filter, the water just basically runs through that charcoal and it gets purified that way. And it just removes all the particulates and all the contaminants that you don't want in the water, algae, that kind of thing. But then, of course, after it's done with that process, with the reverse osmosis process, now it has to be treated further, because we have to, first of all, we have to raise that pH back up because we've lowered it so much with the acid. We have to disinfect it because there still may be bacteria in there.
You disinfect it with what?
Chloramines.
Chloramines.
Chloramines, which is chlorine and ammonia mixed.
Okay.
It's a mix. And once it goes through the reverse osmosis system, it's not drinkable. It's so pure and it's like distilled water.
I see.
It would taste very flat in your mouth, and it would
No
be
minerals.
yeah, there's nothing, right? As a matter of fact, if you ever looked at bottled water, it says purified by reverse osmosis, minerals added for flavor, or minerals added. You ever notice that on the bottle?
Okay. So this old style of just bottle from a well or manual,
Right.
Or water springs.
Most of them are just municipal. They're just
they
getting
just
it out of
treat
it.
Better.
It's BS.
I see.
I'll try and keep it clean. It's bottled water industry is not as regulated as our industry. Okay, we have to follow a lot more rules. Our water is actually safer. Okay, and I'm going to explain in a minute why you still need a filter. But our water is safer than bottled water because we're more regulated. But bottled water is nothing more than a municipal source, which would be us. And then they repurify it. They run it through another reverse osmosis and do whatever they do to it, and then it comes out in there, and they bottle it and they sell it, and they tell you it's spring water.
So we get very purified water from the reverse osmosis, and then we add some minerals.
Well, what we do
to make it more like natural.
We add sodium hydroxide, okay, which is also called caustic. And caustic raises the pH of the water to make it palatable, okay? Because we need to get that pH up. And we aim for a pH of about 8.2, 8.3.
So it's alkaline.
Right, so it's alkaline. We're also removing the hardness from the water. Now, the problem with removing all the hardness from the water is, have you ever used water and you get in the shower and you soap yourself up and you feel like you can't get the soap off? It just stays slippery. And then there's other times when you took a shower and you just feel like all the soap came off and you feel real dry.
Correct.
Okay, when you feel that, that's hard water.
I see.
But when you feel real slippery, that's when the water's too soft.
I see.
We aim to make it just right in between there so that
So we don't only make water drinkable, but we make water for washing.
palatable, and we have to make it comfortable for washing, and so there's a lot of things that go in. So the sodium hydroxide to raise the pH. We add corrosion inhibitor because we have to make sure that there's still metal pipes in the systems, in the older systems. We use PVC now, but the corrosion inhibitor, of course, keeps.
So right now PVC pipes are safer,
Yes,
and more durable than the old,
especially
rusty
the newer
pipes.
PVC. They don't even use PVC glue anymore. They're kind of welded in a way. There's no seams, so there's nothing that can leach out. They're completely safe. PVC, by the way, stands for polyvinyl chloride, which is a type of plastic. But they're getting better all the time with these plastics.
See, my friend, that's the advantage of having a qualified neighbor.
Here I am.
An expert.
And I'm probably-
That's the reason why he's here today in my house, because he's so qualified to speak and to clarify all these issues to you.
And I'm probably missing a lot of things too.
No, you're doing great. I mean, I have learned a lot so
There you
far.
go. So we also put in an anti-scalant. An anti-scalant is so that obviously the pipes don't build up too much scale, but at the same time, we want a little bit of scale on the pipes because that protects the pipe from. Let me explain something to you. Remember in Michigan, they had that problem with the water where everybody and kids got sick.
Actually, yeah. Flint, Michigan. Was in
Flint, that's right, Flint,
city.
Michigan.
That was
What happened there was they changed their water source. Okay, so originally they were getting their water from I forget what source, and they switched to Lake Michigan or vice versa. I forget what it was, but what happened was they switched from a water source that was not aggressive, in other words, that was not corrosive, to a water source that was more corrosive. And what they should have done at that point is they should have started using a higher dose of corrosion inhibitor, but they wanted to save money. So by saving money, what happened is that water was aggressive and it started leaching the old lead solder that they used to use in those old pipes. It leached that lead into the water. The water source was perfectly fine, but what happened was because of the corrosion, the aggressiveness of the water, the corrosiveness, the water leached the lead out, and then people got lead poisoning, especially children. So, and a lot of people got, truthfully, a lot of people felt like there were certain people should have gone to prison for that.
Absolutely.
But
And
I don't
as
think
far as
anybody did.
I have ever seen, your explanation is the most accurate ones that I've seen, because initially I was under the impression that it was just a bad source of water.
Right.
You're saying it's not that.
The
It was
treatment
not treated.
process
The treatment
was incorrect.
process was
Right.
poor.
Now, of course, they're still using that source of water, I'm sure, but they just started adding a corrosion inhibitor, and that solves all the problem, you see. Now, that's up in Michigan. Down here in Florida, we have much more newer communities. So most of it is PVC. Now, here where we live in Boca Lago, this community is 40 years old. So I'm sure there's probably metal pipes here, you know. I don't think we have the lead solder issue. Okay, but the reason why, even though our water is, when our water comes out of the plant, it's completely in compliance with the Department of Environmental DEP rules and EPA rules. Okay, we're totally in compliance. But depending on where you live and what the how your pipes are, what kind of a condition they're in, you need a filter, because you don't know what your pipes look like, and it can, the water can pick up particulates and contaminants in the pipes. Now, something interesting that's happening. Do you have any questions? Am I rambling too much?
No. You're perfect. I have a lot of questions. Now I'm going to ask you also to tell me if there are some gradings for air filters. Do we have the same for water filters, like a grading system that will tell you which one, is more efficient taking out chemicals?
What do you have here? You have an under the sink system?
Yeah, I have an under
Okay,
the
so
sink.
there's different filters you can buy for it. Certain ones just
Like
take
grade
out
1, grade 2?
Right. Well, you have ones that are rated where they say that it'll remove the chlorine and chemicals and stuff. Then you have other ones that just remove particulates. Like a filter, just a plain filter, which is what I use. Okay, because I know that we don't have, I don't believe anyway, the problem with rocket fuel and those kinds of contaminants in our water.
Okay.
So I just use a filter that just takes all the particulates out, just to purify it a little. But you can get a filter that'll remove the chlorine and everything else, or the chloramines in this case.
Well, we're now getting to the nitty-gritty. We are right now in a situation where nobody wondered very much about the quality of water. It was perfectly fine, and suddenly we have a prospect for having a Secretary of Health and Human Services that is very concerned about fluoride. So I want you to explain me a little bit more. What else do we put in the water that is getting too much attention lately?
Okay, so fluoride. Okay, that's a big issue for me because I hate fluoride. I don't think we should be putting it in the water, and I think eventually we're gonna get away from that. Fluoride is naturally occurring in the wells. When the water comes out of the well, we have, how much fluoride is in our water? I think it's about a 0.3. So you're talking about 3 parts, I believe it's 3 parts per billion.
Oh, per billion?
Per billion of fluoride. I think it's 0.3 parts per million. So that would be 3 parts per million, per billion.
That's natural.
That's naturally occurring, okay? Then we add fluoride. We use what's called hydrofluorosilicic acid, and it's a liquid fluoride. There's also powders. Some people use the powdered form. We use the liquid form. We add 0.75 parts per billion. Okay, so it's 0.75 ppm, parts per million, which is 75 parts per billion. It's not a lot, or 7.5 parts per billion. It's not a lot, okay? But the thing is this. The reason why we put fluoride in the water, and by the way, I believe 60% or 40% of the plants in Florida don't use fluoride anymore. They voted it out. The reason why we still have it is because our customers want it, because they want to protect their children's teeth. Now, back when they first started putting fluoride in the water, that was necessary. But now we have toothpaste that has fluoride in it. There's no reason for us to be ingesting fluoride in our water. I'm totally against it. I think most operators you would talk to would also
because
tell
that's
you.
the only reasonable. That's the only reason why they put it there, to prevent care.
Right, it's just for
tooth decay and prevent
it's the only way.
dental health.
But the thing is when I tell you where we get our fluoride from, when I tell you where the hydrofluorosilicic acid comes from,
Tell me.
it's a byproduct of industrial waste.
Oh.
Okay, and then of course it's purified and made it's
But
made so it's good.
nevertheless, there is a quality control issue.
It's. I'm not going to say it's dangerous. I would say it's just unnecessary.
I see.
Why should we put we're already putting so many chemicals in there. Why put another chemical in? That's totally unnecessary. But the thing is our customers want it. There's a misconception that if we don't have fluoride in the water, the kids' teeth are going to start falling out, and that's not the case. If your kid's getting
Not
proper
now,
dental
but-
care, right,
Yeah.
and using fluoridated toothpaste, we don't need fluoride in the water. So I totally agree with RFK on that.
Only on that.
Right. And not only that, but as an operator, it's just a nasty chemical to work with. It's not
Really?
Yeah, we don't come in contact.
But it was I'm glad that this discussion came because, like I said, I was under the impression, first of all, that it was mandatory for the whole nation to use this,
Yeah.
like in many other countries. Second of all, I think it was undisputable that the benefits outrange the damage, that so far there has not been any link to any significant medical problem, health issue with fluoridating the water. But I didn't know, like you said, that many municipalities has voted out to do it.
Voted it out, yes.
And so it's up to the community.
It is. And Palm Beach County is not a community. Palm Beach County is many communities.
I see.
So, if you live in the city of Boca Raton, you're not drinking my water from Palm Beach County. You're drinking city of Boca Raton water. And I believe they do use fluoride. I believe they
But the federal government supervises all these?
The federal government in the form of the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, and then locally, every state has its own branch of the DEP, which is the Department of Environmental Protection.
Excellent.
So not only are we providing clear water, but it's also our job to make sure that our groundwater is safe. And that's the other end of the operation, which is wastewater, which I'm also licensed to do wastewater. I don't do it right now. I'm just doing drinking water. But wastewater is a whole other show. It would be a whole other interview for wastewater.
We do not recycle water from ponds and so forth for drinking water.
Well, we
use it for the plants and the vegetation, right?
Well, here you're talking about reuse water.
Reuse water.
Okay, so here's the thing about reuse water. Okay, in this area here, we don't have reuse. Matter of fact, my plant does not provide reuse. There is a plant further north. It's called Mecca, I believe. Actually, I shouldn't say that because I'm not really sure what the name of that plant is, but there is a reuse plant where they do provide reuse water for watering golf courses. Certain new communities are even piped for reuse water into the toilets. So imagine, if you will, how much lower your water bill would be if you're using reuse water for your toilets and the drinking water comes through your sink. In other countries, reuse water they drink it because we have the technology
to make it as pure as
it's
possible.
called, and I'm not going to like the name, but it's called tap to toilet. I mean, toilet to tap.
Yeah. I have seen
Toilet to tap.
many trucks from the U.S. Army that do that. When they go to war things, they can take the ugliest water they can find, pass it through that truck, and out there it comes drinkable water.
But you see, the psychology in this country is, I don't want to drink water that had pee
Actually,
in it.
the astronauts recycle their water.
Of course. And in this country, though, people say, I don't want to drink water that had pee or poop in it. But like I said before, dinosaurs used to poop in this water, okay? There is not another single drop of water on this earth that wasn't here at the very beginning. So there's been pee and poop in every drop of water you drink. It's been there at one time or another. And the only thing we're doing is we're speeding up Mother Nature's cycle. Instead of having to wait for it to evaporate and go into the clouds and get purified up there, we're doing it down here in a matter of hours or days instead of months and years.
Well, my friends, now you see why I needed to invite this person, this wonderful neighbor, to my home and to have these issues presented to you, because his job is very important. I thank him because of people like him, we got very good water here in this area. So I'm glad, Max. Anything else you want to tell people?
I would just recommend that no matter how good your water source is, that you have either an under the sink or a home filtration system, only because of the pipes. You don't know what condition your pipes are in or how far you are from the water plant. makes a big difference. So even though the water coming out of our plants is completely within compliance and completely safe, I completely recommend that you get a filtration system for your home.
And also people that use tanks, that keep the tanks clean.
Right.
And because some people accumulate water in tanks just in case there's a problem of supply.
And you should use chlorine tablets. Right. You should definitely.
Well, Max, I thank you very much for this
fun.
wonderful opportunity to exchange some of the important issues that you have.
I hope I didn't completely confuse everybody.
No, not at all. I'm pretty sure that you're going to see a lot of comments about how good your explanation was, because I mean, it was very informative for me. I have learned a lot in this conversation that we have, and I hope, my friends, that this is not the last time we see.
We can do one on wastewater the next time.
Okay, next time we have a program about wastewater.
And we'll talk about where your poop goes.
Oh my goodness! Well, that's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
You know, one of the most significant sanitary processes that affect health is waste disposal.
Right.
And I'm not talking about necessarily human waste disposal, but also plastics and microplastics.
Exactly,
and
right.
A lot
And
of
that's
chemicals.
why it's so important that you don't dump gasoline and things on the ground, because you can contaminate the aquifer and the wells. Everything should be disposed of.
We have a lot to talk in the future.
We'll do it. This was fun.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Jose.
my friends, this is my first interview in English. I hope you follow me and follow Max in these upcoming sessions, and leave your comments. And if you like it, well, give me some likes to encourage me to continue doing these interviews in English, my second language. Thank you very much for your watching, and see you in the next episode.
Thank you. Bye-bye.